Okay, so we just finished the import from a RAS channel, and then I used my backup to reset the project so that I can now show you how to build channels if you don't have RAS data. So we're going to be putting these 3 channel segments in. It's the same channel, but we're going to use 3 segments to define it using some guidelines, some templates to help guide us, and using the elevation data and the satellite image to help position the channel. So I'm going to import these 3 layers, 1, 2, 3, but I'm not going to use them really. I'm just going to kind of use them to help guide me. But they come in, usually when you bring in data, it comes in a very muted colors. So if you want to change that, double click any layer and then put a better color in. So blue left banks are typically cyan in FLO 2D, and right banks are typically magenta. And cross sections are typically navy. I love that editor, it's so much fun. And so like I said, we're going to use these as kind of a template, but they're not perfect, so we're also probably going to ignore them. So instead of working from this left bank layer, we are going to do our work here. So all we have to do is start editing. Like, just click the editor pencil and click add a line feature, and make sure this is set to digitize with segment, not shapes, okay? And we don't have to be super careful about where we position this because we can move it later. And this is a 30-foot by 30-foot grid system, so regardless of where we put our channel, it's going to be guided by the center of the node. So we don't have to be super careful about positioning our bank right. Really what we're looking for is trying to get the cross-section data entered in here correctly. And we'll see that, you'll see what I mean as we get down to sampling the elevation data from our cross-section. So I'm going to turn off the elevation layer and just use this area right here and notice that that's inside that grid, and just to kind of help me position that. And what I'm doing is I'm just trying to stay between the fence line on the south and the bank of the channel on the north. I'll try to do this as quickly as possible. What I'm doing is I'm left clicking. Now if you mess up, you just hit delete to delete the very last vertice that you put in. You can do that as many times as you want. If you really mess up, then escape will completely eliminate that line that you're working on. The most common thing you're going to do is accidentally right click and close the line, because your right clicking hand is on that and your left, and it's going to get tired. So now I'm going to put this here, but let's check the grid. Okay, so do I want that to be here or do I want it to be here? It kind of doesn't really matter, so we'll just do it here. And then I'll right click, and this needs limiting for, remember in the RAS we used 0.9, so we'll do that again because this is an urban channel. It could possibly go supercritical, but I think they try to design channels that don't go supercritical because they don't want to tear up their concrete, but that doesn't mean that's always possible. But that's usually why they have drop structures. So that one's done. Let's work now, and again we're going from upstream to downstream, left bank looking downstream. Okay, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to stay up here, kind of just try to stay up on this bank. And now that I'm there, I don't have to be as careful. And I'm ignoring any of these side channels that come in. Let's save that as an advanced topic, and let's just say we're working on a basic channel. So I'm kind of using the green line, and I'm kind of using that fence line to the left bank to define this. So if I zoom out too far, I can't see that, and if I zoom in too close, it takes too long to build the channel. And kind of depending on the grid element size, I might be a little bit more careful, but this grid element size is pretty. Then see, I ended the last one here. Let's end this one here and let's see what happens. So I right click, 0.9, tab 0.2, enter. And this one, look, is actually in the wrong spot. So I'm going to keep that in the wrong spot because I want you to see what happens when we sample the elevation data. And we can get way out here because this one is pretty straight. So we don't have to be super careful in how we position it. And then the last one, this is our very last grid element. We want to run this channel all the way up to the boundary. And I'll right click and close that last line, 0.9, tab 0.2, enter. And that, the left banks are now done. Note, I'll save it, and note, because if we crash the system and I save that, then we still get the data. I don't anticipate you crashing it at this point. Okay, so note the position of the end lines for the left and right bank. Just keep that in the back of your mind. Now we'll do the right bank. Same, upstream to downstream. Let's see, we'll put this one here. I'm going to start this up on this sidewalk. And what I'm going to do with this one is I am going to follow that fence line because it's very straight. And the fence line pretty much represents the top of the right bank. This is a gabion channel. So the bottom is concrete and then the sides are gabion, rock gabion structures. And there is a bit, looks to me like there is a bit of a possibly hydraulically significant little spot here on this sidewalk. I'm just gonna breeze right over it. Again, I'm left clicking, and then when it starts to turn, I start adding a few more vertices to try to capture those transition areas. And let's see, we stopped this one. Let's just put this one right here, and then right click. Okay, don't have to do anything there. Now on this one, again, I'm going to mess this up. I'm going to put this down here, and I'm going to put it down inside the channel. So I want you to see what happens when you mess up the positioning of a bank or a cross section when we sample the elevation data. Hopefully I'll show you two errors with this system. And I'm using my left or my right mouse wheel to move me to pan in the downstream direction. So click the wheel, pan in the downstream. I'm left clicking to place the vertices, and I will right click to close the polyline. Now I need to be a little more careful when I get into this transition zone. And I'll go ahead and get up here. Now this one I ended right here. So here we will go end right here. And I want to be up on that highest elevation. Right click, OK. And again here I messed up this one. Let's not mess up this one. We'll put this one all the way up on the bank. And don't have to be as careful with this one because it is very straight until it gets down to the transition area, which is coming up. A little bit of a turn here. Just add a few more vertices just to help define that bank position of that channel. And then, I guess that's fine. And then just be careful around this culvert to make sure that you're up on the top of that elevation of that culvert. And it looks like, again, I've pulled that all the way out to this last spot right here. Right click, OK, and save. And now my left and right bank lines are finished, but not perfect. So they will be definitely modified. Whoops, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Okay, now I want to get rid of those two. And I don't want these cross sections either, because I don't want those cross sections defining where I put my cross sections. As you can see, let me turn this grid off real quick. There's a lot of cross section in this layer. We don't need that many cross sections. I'm probably going to use somewhere around 6 cross sections per segment. We don't need a cross section every 50 feet. We don't need a cross section every 300 feet. We just need to define, because this is a uniform channel. If it was a braided channel or a natural channel, that would be a different story. Then you would want cross sections in places like transitions and things like that. But for this channel, we don't need that. So I'm just going to remove these 3 layers because I'm basically done with them. So right click and then R key will remove those layers. And these guys are both saved. I'm going to save the geo package. These you don't have to stop editing them. Just leave them editor turned on. And now we'll start working on putting in our cross sections. Again, cross sections will be going in from upstream to downstream in the direction, and you will cross the left bank looking downstream first and the right bank looking downstream second. So to build cross sections, we use this guy. We are going to build all our cross sections, and then we are going to schematize, fix any errors we come across, and then we're going to stop the video. So click the button, and now we need to turn on the grid for the first cross section because there are some rules. So, and I also need to be on this. So when I'm on here, I am on add a line, and this is set to digitize with segment. And we will just, come on now, where'd you go? Oh, it's on. And then we're going to cross this line, and both the crossing of the cross section and the first vertice of both lines are going to be inside the same grid element. So my left bank is going to be, both are going to be inside this grid element, and my right bank, both will be inside this grid element. So it's going to be left click, right click, and I don't need to do anything here, just click OK. See? And they're both crossing and they're both in the same line. We're going to mess one of these up. So now we go on down to the next one, and now we don't have to be as careful because there's no transition here. So we'll just put our next one here. And I'm going to use the Enter key instead of right click Enter, instead of clicking OK because it's a little faster. We're going to ignore this channel right here because that's an advanced topic, so I'm going to skip it for this lesson. And another one here. I am trying to get them about in the middle of grid elements. And then here we want to pick up this transition, so we'll put one here. And then we'll put one here. Okay. Now this is the one we're going to mess up. So first of all, this is in the wrong spot. So we're going to put the cross section in the right spot, but we're going to put the right bank line in the wrong spot. I'm going to turn that about right there. Right click Enter. And you'll see what happens when we hit the Schematize button. Now I'm also going to leave out the transition on this second segment because I want to show you how to put those in later. And this will be, so let's go down here, and now we can do this if we want. See how I kind of repositioned that because to get more perpendicular with the line. And then we are going to leave out this guy and ignore that because that again is an advanced topic. So let's just keep this simple for now. And put more of these in than I wanted. So then on this one I will capture the transition. So we're going to go here to here. And then on this one we'll capture the transition. So we go here to here. Right click, Enter. And that one is done. Now continue on. This one is also messed up, so I'm going to place the cross section correctly, and then right click, and this one is also messed up, so I'm going to right click. Let's get this back up here. It starts drifting, and so these two are also incorrect. And then I am going to put the transition in here, so that's just this one. And look at that. I don't like the position of that. So I'm going to go to the vertex tool, transition to the vertex tool, and I'm going to pick up that vertex and go ahead and pop that back here. I want a nice wide buffer on those. Then go back to the add a line tool, and we'll go down and just start putting our lines in. And again, I'm going to skip over those because I don't want to represent those. And then here, this can still be kind of in this way, escape. I don't like the position of that. Let's go here. And I'm going to keep this, I'm not going to keep this one like in this diagonal or in this straight up and down position. I don't really care about that, and that will make it a bit easier to help with our transition. So now that we're in this area where we're transitioning, let's be a little bit more careful in how we place our cross sections. I'm going to cancel that and try that again. And then we'll grab one right here. And we'll put the last one right here. Okay. And this one, it looks kind of funky, so we can reposition it if you want. It's not really going to hurt anything, but it's fine to do that. And now you don't want to use this save button to save your cross sections. You want to come over here and you want to use this save button because it is a trigger that triggers some different activities. So I'm going to click save, and it's going to load all the tables with my user cross section data. If I use the save button up here, it's going to skip some of those and mess your project up. Now, if you'll note, none of our cross sections have elevation data. They just have this generic placeholder data to help build the tables. I'm not going to add the elevation data. That's the next video. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run the Schematize tool so we can see the error messages. So now once you get your channel positioned correctly and your cross sections in, you click Schematize channel, and it says the right bank line channel number 3 and the first cross section 15, must start in the same grid cell and intersection. So click OK and close the error message. That was, so actually this one did it too. So let's go fix channel 3 first. Okay, this is channel 3. Let's fix this one first. Now it was this guy. See, it's not ending in this grid element. So what do? We have to move one of these. I set it up so we can move the bank. So that'll be easy. We just move that right there. And now we try the Schematize again. Note, I didn't even save it. So I'm going to Schematize it. And it says at least one right bank was not used. Check your layers. So again, same problem, except this time it was in the left bank, or sorry, it was in this one. And same thing, I'm going to just reposition that right there and make sure they're both in the same grid element. And this time our Schematize worked. But a couple more things happened that I don't like, and that is that this channel is too close together. But we're going to fix that later in the next video. So we got the Schematize to work without there being any error messages. So we have a channel, and so we can click save on this. And I think what I want to do is show you the log. So I'm going to open the log message panel by right-clicking this area. And you can see here that this is the message you get when you run the Schematize, that you have 85 cross sections in segment 1 and 2 and 99 in segment 3, and we have 7, 7, and 10 cross sections, and these are the interpolated cross sections. Now I'll close that message, and I think at this point I'm going to shut the video down because the next step is going to be all done in the next video, which will be assigning elevation data.